In the ancient world, there were few tales as thrilling and heroic as the legend of Jason and the Argonauts. It is a story of adventure and bravery, of heroes risking everything in the pursuit of glory and honor. The action-packed adventure sees a young man determined to win back his father's throne, leading a crew of the bravest warriors in Greece on a dangerous quest to find the legendary Golden Fleece. Along the way, they face perilous obstacles, deadly enemies, and treacherous seas, yet they are determined to succeed, to return home as heroes and earn their place in the annals of history. So sit back and let me regale you with the epic tale of Jason and the Argonauts. In the ancient city of Iolcus in Thessaly, modern-day Greece, a familial war was raging between King Aeson and his half-brother Pelias. It was during this time that Jason was born. As a son of the king, he was a rightful heir to the throne, or at least would have been had his uncle Pelias not overthrown King Aeson, usurping the throne and killing every descendant of the king he could find. Indeed, Jason was only spared because his mother, thought to be Alcimede, had her female attendants gather around her and cry, pretending as if her son was stillborn. Knowing the ruse wouldn't last long though, Alcimede soon sent Jason away to be brought up by the famed centaur, Chiron. Meanwhile, Pelias grew increasingly paranoid about challenges to his newly acquired throne, so he consulted an oracle. The oracle warned him to beware of a man from the countryside wearing a single sandal. Years passed, until one day, as King Pelias hosted games in honor of Poseidon, a grown-up Jason arrived back in Iolcus. Notably, he had lost one of his sandals while helping an old woman cross the river Anoros. Little did he know that the old woman was actually the goddess Hera in disguise. For his kindness, Hera blessed Jason, knowing what Pelias had in store for him. Jason soon approached his uncle and made Pelias aware of his rightful claim. In response, recalling the oracle's prophecy, Pelias offered Jason one condition for retaking the throne, a condition which seemed impossible and likely to rid the king of his pesky nephew forever. He tasked Jason with crossing the high seas and retrieving the Golden Fleece, a prized possession belonging to King Aeetes of Colchis. Without hesitation, Jason accepted. Knowing the mammoth quest ahead of him and the perils he would likely face, Jason had a ship built, named the Argo, and with some help from the gods, assembled a heroic crew that would come to be known as the Argonauts. Among the Argonauts were some famous faces from Greek mythology, including the mighty Heracles, also known as Hercules, the musician and prophet Orpheus, twins Castor and Pollux, as well as the winged Boreads, sons of the north wind, blessed with the ability to fly. It's believed there were around 50 Argonauts in total. After setting sail, the crew's first stop was the Isle of Lemnos in the Aegean Sea. Here, they encountered the island's ruler, Hypsipyle, and came to find that Lemnos was inhabited only by women. They had murdered all of their husbands after the latter had rejected them and taken Thracian wives in response to a curse from Aphrodite that caused the women to emit a foul smell. Regardless, the Argonauts stayed on Lemnos for a while, engaging in relations with the island's women and creating a new race called the Minions. Even Jason fathered a child with Hypsipyle named Euneus. Alas, after a scolding from Heracles for not acting like heroes, it eventually came time to continue the quest. And following Lemnos, the Argonauts proceeded to the land of the Doliones, which was ruled over by King Cyzicus. Cyzicus welcomed the Argonauts with open arms, but one day, while the majority of the Argonauts were searching for supplies beyond the nearby Bear Mountain, 6 armed giants known as the Gegines, or the Earthborn, attacked their ship. Thankfully, the strong Heracles fought back and managed to kill several Geginese before the other Argonauts returned and forced the giants to retreat. The Argo set sail later that night, but was blown back to the island. Believing they were being attacked by pirates, the Doliones attacked the Argo, resulting in a deadly battle where many were killed, including Cyzicus, who was slain by Jason. As the morning light exposed their error, the remorseful Argonauts held a funeral for the deceased king. Clete, Cyzicus's wife, couldn't bear the scene and hung herself out of despair. The next destination for the Argonauts was Salmydessus in Thrace, where they came across King Phineus. He was a blind and starving king tormented by the Harpies, fierce creatures sent by Zeus to steal his food daily. Jason felt sorry for Phineas and instructed his crew to assist the king. So they tempted the Harpies with a lavish feast, and the Boreads, Calais, and Zetes drove them away forever. In appreciation for Jason's help, Phineas disclosed to the Argonauts the location of Iolcus and the method for safely passing through the Symplegades, or to give them their other name, the Clashing Rocks. The massive cliffs had a tendency to collide and obliterate anything that dared to sail through them. But Phineas instructed Jason to set free a dove as they approached the islands, and if the bird managed to fly through unscathed, they were to row with all their might. However, if the dove was crushed, their fate would be sealed. Acting upon Phineas's advice, Jason released the dove, which successfully flew through the rocks, losing but a few tail feathers. Encouraged by this, the crew rowed with great vigor and were able to pass through with only minor damage to the rear of the ship. From that point on, the Clashing Rocks became permanently fused, allowing safe passage for future voyages. Jason and his crew eventually arrived in Iolcus, where they received a warm welcome from King Aeetes. The king had possession of the Golden Fleece, which was given to him by Phrixus, who had arrived there many years ago on a flying golden ram. Aeetes stated that he would award the fleece to Jason only if he completed a series of seemingly impossible tasks within a single day. Upon learning of these tasks, Jason was overwhelmed with despair. Thankfully, his guardian goddess Hera persuaded Aphrodite to bribe Eros to shoot one of his arrows at Medea, the daughter of Aeetes, making her fall head over heels in love with Jason. Medea was not just any woman. Aside from being a princess, she was also a highly skilled high priestess of Hecate with expertise in magic and sorcery. Jason's initial task was to plow a field from end to end using the Chalcotauroi, two fire-breathing bulls made of bronze. Persuaded by Jason's pledge to marry her after their expedition, Medea gave him an ointment that shielded him from the flames and made him nearly invincible. With the help of this salve, Jason was able to successfully harness the bulls and plow the field with ease. For his second task, Jason was instructed to sow dragon's teeth in the freshly plowed field, which was thought to be a simple task. However, this action led to an army of stone warriors springing forth from the ground. Prepared by Medea and acting on her guidance, Jason hurled a rock into the midst of the warriors. They were confused about who had thrown the rock, so they turned on one another, and by nightfall, Jason was the only one left standing on the field. Nevertheless, Aeetes was not yet ready to relinquish the Golden Fleece just yet. Instead, he conspired with the influential men of Iolcus to eliminate Jason and the Argonauts during the night. Sensing the danger, Medea ran away from her father and joined forces with the Argonauts. She then led Jason to a holy oak tree where the Golden Fleece was guarded by a watchful dragon. Using her potions and spells, Medea put the dragon to sleep just long enough for Jason to grab the Golden Fleece and flee back to the Argo. Once they had secured the Golden Fleece, Jason, Medea, and the Argonauts departed from Iolcus. Aeetes attempted to pursue them, but Medea murdered her own brother Apsyrtus and tossed his remains into the sea, forcing Aeetes to halt and collect them. As a consequence, Zeus was enraged by Medea's brutal act of fratricide and unleashed a series of storms to obstruct the Argonauts' voyage back home. Incredibly, amidst the storms, the Argo itself began to speak and suggested that the Argonauts seek purification from Circe, a nymph and the sister of Aeetes, who lived on the island of Aeaea. Jason and the others followed the ship's advice, and once they had been purified from sin, they resumed their voyage back home. During their journey back to Iolcus, the Argonauts encountered many more dangers. The first major peril was the sirens, whose mesmerizing voices had caused many ships to crash onto the reefs. However, the Argo had the legendary poet Orpheus on board, who played his lyre so beautifully and loudly that it drowned out the sirens' voices, allowing the Argonauts to pass safely. Their second danger was even more daunting. As they approached Crete, they encountered Talos, a giant bronze man who guarded the island and hurled stones at any approaching ships. To defeat him, Medea used her magic to remove the plug that kept Talos's ichor, or divine blood, in his single vein, causing him to bleed to death. The Argonauts finally made their way back to Iolcus. However, many years had passed since their departure, and Jason found his father Aeson in a feeble and elderly state. Overwhelmed by his father's condition, Jason pleaded with Medea to transfer some of his own life force to Aeson to restore his father's youth. But instead of transferring life, Medea drained Aeson of his old blood and filled the former king's veins with a rejuvenating elixir. Aeson awoke 40 years younger and full of vitality. Witnessing this magical transformation, Pelias's daughters requested the same treatment of Medea for their father. Rather than submitting to their request, though, Medea tricked the daughters into following the same ritual, but this time, she did not provide an elixir. Essentially, Pelias bled to death, and the daughters had unwittingly killed their own father. Still, Jason did not become king of Iolcus, as Pelias's son, Acastus, took the throne. In turn, Acastus exiled Jason and Medea from the island entirely. The couple fled to Corinth, but in doing so, their relationship suffered. Jason fell in love with King Creon's daughter, Creusa, which angered Medea immensely, especially after all she had done for him. Seeking revenge for this betrayal, Medea gave Creusa a crown and a poisoned dress, which caused her and her father to perish in flames. Medea also murdered the 2 sons she had had with Jason, either out of fear that he would seek retribution or to cause him unimaginable pain. Following these heinous acts, Medea left Jason and fled to Athens on a serpent-drawn chariot sent by her grandfather, the sun god Helios. There are varying accounts of what happened to Jason in his later life. Some sources suggest that he took his own life in despair soon after the events in Corinth. Others are more forgiving, claiming that years later, with the assistance of his friend Pelias, he was able to regain his throne in Iolcus. Regardless, he lost the favor of Hera after breaking his vows to Medea and lived out his days as a solitary and forlorn figure, a mere shadow of the commanding leader he had once been. One night, while sleeping beneath the stern of his once majestic ship, the Argo, a rotten beam fell and crushed him to death. The tale of Jason and the Argonauts is one of the most famous stories in Greek mythology, and it holds great significance in several ways. The quest serves as a classic example of the hero's journey, a recurring theme in Greek mythology and literature, where a hero embarks on a perilous adventure to achieve a great goal. The Argonauts were a diverse and legendary crew that included famous figures like Heracles and Orpheus, plus the tale itself includes many mythological elements, such as the involvement of the gods and goddesses, magical creatures, and supernatural events. These elements reinforce the idea that the ancient Greeks believed in a world that was full of mystery and wonder, where humans were at the mercy of powerful forces beyond their control. Overall, the story of Jason and the Argonauts has enduring significance in Greek mythology as a tale of heroic adventure, teamwork, and mysticism. Some might even call it a superior precursor to the Avengers, but that's for you to decide. Let us know your thoughts and leave a like if you enjoyed this video. Feel free to let us know which myths and legends you'd like to see covered next, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Until then, thanks for watching.